I'm Chance.
And I'm Sarah Catherine.
And this is Conservation Connection,
presented by Last Chance Endeavors.
We are a husband and wife team running a wildlife education nonprofit. It's focused on connecting students to their environment.
Each week, here on Conservation Connection, we do just that, introducing you to the groundbreaking science and conservation work that's happening every day across the globe.
We talk to professionals in the world of conservation science and wildlife management, and we ask them about their career,
their current projects,
their wild and crazy stories from the field,
and everything in between.
This episode is a collaboration with EarthX here in Dallas, Texas.
EarthX is the largest Earth Day celebration in the world, and it brings in speakers from every corner of the environmental arena.
Listen in to hear the stories of today's environmental titans, covering everything from environmental law, ocean health, renewable energy, clean transportation, and so much more.
Let's get to the show.
Welcome, everybody. We are really excited today. We're talking with Candace Chandra here at EarthX Dallas. She is the CEO of Fresh Food Connect.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. We really appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit about what Fresh Food Connect is?
Be delighted to. We are a food tech logistics organization. We started 4 years ago in Denver as a food rescue organization, and they were collecting a lot of produce, fresh produce from backyard gardeners, community gardens, and other types, and bringing it to nonprofits and distributing it to food desert areas. And that's a pretty complicated process, the logistics piece of it. So they decided to develop a web app. And when I say they, it was a coalition of 3 nonprofits in Denver who ran this program. And they developed a web app and made it super easy. So everyone got excited and they had a bunch of people get on board. And they also take care of the on-the-ground logistics. So we use bicycle couriers to pick up and deliver direct to door.
So basically, it's the idea that people who create produce have stuff that won't make it to market or won't make it to a consumer and is otherwise going to be thrown away. And what Fresh Food Connects does is it helps manage the logistics of getting that food that would otherwise be wasted into the hands of people in, you called it a food desert?
Yes, a food desert is an area in an urban setting that lacks access to fresh food, or to any food, actually. So there's no supermarket within a certain mileage. They don't have any other way, maybe through public transportation or other means of access. Uber Eats doesn't deliver there, that sort of thing. So they have to typically travel, at least in Dallas, a half an hour to get their groceries.
Wow. So I would really like to take a step back, and I'd love to hear more about the journey that brought you to Fresh Food Connect. What was it like getting to this point?
Would you like the direct route, or would you like the circuitous route?
Let's go the scenic route. I'm down for that.
Okay. So it all started because I wanted to become a doctor. And I have always been fascinated with herbal medicine and Aristotle's maxim, let food be thy medicine. So I've always approached it. I ended up with a master's in public health and economic development. So I've always approached it from that perspective, especially as we look at increasing rates of chronic disease, right? Cancer, diabetes, all of those things are highly affected by food. So it's a personal interest. On the professional side, that's where the circuitous aspect comes in. I worked right after grad school at the World Bank and for the United Nations for about 10 years. And
Wow.
I did a lot of programs overseas, helping rebuild healthcare systems, water and waste systems, and a little bit on the power side, basically in post-conflict situations. But the fascinating thing about working there is you get to eat with the people and talk about things. I typically spent at least 2 weeks in country, in every country I worked in, multiple times over the space of a few years. And I learned how there are different diets and their connection to food, not just from, say, a mineral and vitamin perspective, but also the social aspect of it just really changed their lives and how different it was from our society. So again, a fascination, took a lot of walks on my off time and got to see their gardens. So fast forward, after I left the United Nations, I ended up working on the for-profit side for a couple of investment groups. And my brief was to work on water quality. And we were a little ahead of the game on pricing and other aspects on investment in water. So we were looking to affiliate with certain sectors: oil and gas, agriculture, some of the biggest users, chemicals, the biggest users of water. And I don't know if you know this, but around the globe, the average sector that uses the most water is agriculture.
Right.
It's about 67 to 70%, depending on the country. Even in the States, it's at least 40%. Couple that with the food waste that you see going on right now in the United States, which is, again, about 40% along the supply chain. It became really fascinating to start working with food partners, both on the production side, but also on the logistics side. But a lot of that, quite frankly, was done kind of pro bono. So I was volunteering with food groups while working on water. And then when I finally left that time of my life, the water time, I received a call from the board who had set up this new entity, Fresh Food Connect, inviting me to interview, and the rest is history.
Wow.
What a story. I love the idea of looking at water issues from food waste, because so much of the water goes into agriculture, and so much of that agriculture produces food. And if we're wasting 40% of the food that's created, by minimizing that, we can really have a big effect on water issues as well as food issues.
Exactly. And if you think about most ripe fruits and vegetables and the water weight that's inside of them, right? So the quality aspect, I think that's where we're moving to in agriculture, especially we're associated with sustainable and organic farming. Water quality is going to become a very big issue because depending on who you ask, but I would say close to 80% of our waters are polluted in the U.S. That's fresh water.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that board at Fresh Food Connect find you?
I asked them the same question. LinkedIn is what I was told. And I think a little bit of personal networking too, although I didn't know them. There was a quite large degree of separation.
Yeah. So what exactly did Fresh Food Connect bring you in to do?
Well, they decided to set up a brand new entity because they were so focused on Colorado. So over the 3 years, they had grown from one zip code in Denver to multiple zip codes in Denver to multiple locations around Colorado, which is super exciting. But most of the board members are already affiliated with nonprofits in Colorado, so without a national focus. And suddenly, at the end of the last season, they were getting calls from nonprofits around the country saying, we heard about your fantastic, easy product called Fresh Food Connect. We would like to integrate that into what we're doing in food rescue, especially because, to tie it back to the health component, fresh food is so important for people who lack access or are in need of more food.
It makes a big change in just their overall health, having that fresh food availability, right?
Absolutely, yes.
It's not on the same level, but I can think of when Chance and I travel often, you're not eating the freshest of food. And, that really takes a toll on your body. And so every time we come back from a trip, I'm like craving like fruit and vegetables. So it really is so important what you all are doing.
Yes, and I think with the increase of chronic disease in this country and others, The healthcare system and the insurance system are finally recognizing that they need to help promote this. So in Dallas, there's a new push to do what they're calling Veggie RX. So doctors are actually writing prescriptions for vegetables and fresh fruit. And we are actually affiliating with a young pediatrician who's opening several clinics in food deserts, because food deserts tend to correlate to health equity issues. And so we will be working with her to deliver fresh fruits and vegetables that she can then hand out as part of her prescription to a family.
That's amazing.
What I love about this is that it's not just figuring out what the problem is and where the problems exist and what the solutions might be. It's actually doing the logistics behind it, getting it from point A to point B and taking real action to solve a problem. So often we see awareness organizations, which are very important, or we see research organizations, which are equally important, but a logistics organization is on the ground solving problems, and that's really, really powerful.
That is one of the ways that the board got me to say yes, because I completely agree with you that so often people use technology to help connect and communicate, but it's really hard when you're trying to have an impact at the local level to follow through from that communication piece online and translate it into, for example, in our case, the actual pickup and delivery of perishable items, right? And I'll just brag on us a little bit more.
Please do.
We are carbon neutral in our delivery. So in Colorado, they use electric trikes and they bicycle until they go uphill. And then it kicks in when they have about 400 pounds of food in the back.
Right.
I'm super proud of that. We are looking as we expand nationally how to do that. Obviously, Dallas is a great place to pilot because it's so hot here that we are trying to work with the public transport system in allowing us to transport across long distances. Our zip codes are long and narrow here.
Yeah.
And so we try to keep it within a neighborhood or a zip code, but sometimes, where you need to take it is a little bit further. And so we're really proud of keeping it carbon neutral.
That's pretty incredible to be a national company that's made it a real point to be carbon neutral. So speaking of Dallas and piloting some stuff in Dallas, I know that this weekend, it's April 26th today that we're recording here at EarthX in Dallas. This weekend is a big weekend for you guys. So tell me a little bit about the launch that you've got coming up in the next couple of hours here.
Well, we went live last night.
Oh, so it's already happened. Tell me more.
We are on the App Store, both the iTunes and the Android store. Our app is free to download. It's called Fresh Food Connect. It's got a nice little symbol of a golden sun, which actually looks like small people. So it's building the community, right?
Cool.
And also could be a bicycle spoke, I suppose. And yes, we're super excited. It's going live nationally. We would love for everyone to try it out and let us know what they think, if it's useful for their community. In order to support a community when we go in, we're looking for a certain number of people who have signed on. We have multiple types of users who can do it. We've got what we call producers, who are the gardeners, the growers, the community gardens, school gardens, whomever. We are targeting that smaller grower because there are already a lot of people working at the larger level. And what we're hoping is that that smaller group that's very neighborhood oriented, that's looking to build local food systems in whatever location they're in, will want to join us to either give to people in need or in want. And I call it that because we have two sides to the app. So one side is our traditional, helping to alleviate the difficulty around the logistics of donating your surplus bounty of garden fresh food. The other side that we've just added this year, and that's being piloted in Dallas right now, is an online virtual farmers market. So it's essentially a marketplace where you can load food that you have grown in your backyard. Dallas has very loose regulations around what you can grow. And so there's no trouble. And I know a lady who has 100 chickens in her backyard. So she's got a bunch of eggs. We take any kind of fresh food, so nothing prepared, nothing that's prepackaged. So we're not asking people to give to us their groceries that are running out. We want it what I call dirt to door. So we are a direct to consumer delivery service on the virtual market side. But we need you to cut it out of your garden that morning when we pick it up. We have a 4-hour guarantee from the time that you pick it to the time of delivery.
Jeez.
Yeah, we're
That's
really excited.
insane.
Yes.
That's fascinating. So basically, say for the woman that you said who has chickens and eggs, she's like, oh, I have these eggs and I want to donate them to your organization, and then you go pick them up and take them to someone who needs that fresh food. Is that about right?
So she can just get on the platform as a donor, and she can list that she has eggs, and a nonprofit can get on our platform and say, yes, I'm within your local area. We're doing it zip code by zip code right now. So part of the reason for that is this DFW Metroplex is so large that we really don't want to transport from, say, Frisco down to South Dallas. That's not creating a viable local food system. And the microclimates are actually really different. So we are encouraging people to keep it local in a very hyper-local sense. So a local nonprofit could get on and say, yes, I would love to have those eggs. And then a courier who is also online would say, great, I'm 0.3 miles away. I'll go pick them up and deliver them in the next 4 hours. And that's on the donation side. On the market side is where you can make a little money also. So what we're trying to do on the side where people are listing prices, so you can get on the app as any type of user. And then once you're on the app, you can choose for that particular item on that day, whether you want to donate it or to sell or both. For example, let's say I'm growing peaches and kale in my backyard, and I decide that I'd like to donate the kale because it's just growing obscenely, but my peaches took a lot of work, and so I'd like to make a little money, right? So I could get on the app and I could list the kale. A nonprofit could come through the courier, pick it up that day, and then I could list the peaches, and I could put on that side of the app, you toggle back and forth. I could then say, you know what, I'd like to make $1.20 per pound on these peaches, and I have about 5 pounds. And anyone in my neighborhood could get on and say, oh my gosh, yes, I want those peaches. I'm going to make cobbler tonight. And they could get on, buy them through the regular process. It looks like any other sort of DoorDash or Amazon Prime or anything else. It's the same sort of checkout process with a flat fee for delivery, and you get your food in 4 hours.
That is really, really cool. I love that.
What a cool app. I love the service that you guys are able to provide, getting fresh food into food deserts. Are there any other major benefits to having this service available in areas where there is a food desert?
So we'd really like to promote it also as an employment opportunity. Obviously, right now, not a full-time employment opportunity, but we see it as part of the gig economy where we can help those in food deserts and other areas, university students, whomever, who'd like to spend a little time and a little effort, either as a courier, they could get on for an hour or many hours throughout the week and make a little money that way, and also as a grower. So if, encouraging those people who might have plenty of land but don't have the mechanism to transport to a market or to a restaurant, they can use our service. And since we also pick up and deliver, all they have to do is get on there, Well, first they have to grow their food, but then they get on there and they just list it. And if there's a buyer, it's all taken care of. And we use a third-party payment so they can figure out with that payment service if they want to get paid at the end of every week or every month or how they want to do it. So that pocket change adds up over time.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a great way to incentivize people to grow and to have local fresh food growth. And it's also a great way to make it easy to get that into the hands of people who need it. What a great way to make that happen. And I am not a logistics person. Logistics are not my thing. So I'm just sitting here like overwhelmed at the complexity of what it must take to get perishable items from where they were grown to where they're needed quickly and efficiently. And I just really commend you guys on being able to figure out a solution to that.
Thank you. The gray hair is coming in swaths.
But it's all worth it.
Yes, it's really worth it.
Yeah. Well, I have so many questions just running through my mind. But one thing I do want to ask you before we go is, where do you see Fresh Food Connect in the future? Whether that's a year from now, 5 years from now, what do you see this turning into?
Well, I really believe that it's working towards this movement of keeping things local and sustainable. We desperately need to radically change the way that we live on this planet if we're going to keep this planet for another 20 years and hopefully another 2,000 plus.
I would like at least 20 more years.
Yeah.
That would be great. Let's start there.
And I think there's a burgeoning movement from the ground up, and people really realize that no matter who they are, where they come from. And what we're trying to do is support that by making something complex very easy for the users. So in 1 year time, I hope to be in markets across the U.S., probably large urban areas to begin with, because the logistics piece is just easier when there's the density. So in 5 years' time, I would like to be heavily populated throughout the United States and, maybe working in Mexico. I've already gotten a call from Ontario.
Awesome.
Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I think it has an opportunity everywhere, right?
One last thing that I want to bring up before we go ahead and sign off here is a lot of times people don't think about the impact of having to transport food long distances, but just purely from a carbon footprint standpoint, the amount of CO2 that's put out into the atmosphere because they had to truck your tomatoes in from, several states away or from a different country, the fuel that's burned getting that food from where it was grown to where you're consuming it is pretty massive. And when we're talking about tons and tons and tons of produce, that adds up really fast. And so providing a service that is through electric trikes or through bicycles that are only going within your zip code, it is a massive way to reduce your carbon footprint, to eat local. And that's part of why it's such an important movement. And that's a really cool solution.
Thank you. And I'd like to add to that, as you all know, plastics also come from the petrochemical industry. And we have just made a pledge to never use plastic in our packaging.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That is fantastic.
In just a couple of sentences, what's something that you do in your day-to-day life that helps the environment?
Well, I have just become a community garden plot grower myself.
That's awesome.
Yes, I always had a brown thumb, but most recently it's turning green, and I'm really proud of it. I post it on our Facebook page all the time. And I try to walk and bike as much as possible also. And I know that our board members do too. So
that's great.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show. This has been an awesome conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conservation Connection.
If you enjoyed our podcast, go ahead and subscribe to make sure you catch every episode that we post.
We would love to hear from you. So if you want to reach out, go to our website, lastchanceendeavors.com/contact, and shoot us an email.
We love questions from our listeners, so if you heard something that you want to know more about, be sure to let us know.
We'll post bonus content that addresses your questions and gives you a little more information.
A big thanks to EarthX for hosting us, and a big thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week.